32.
32. And served until the present?
Present time. Still an active member.
All right. How many years did you serve as chief of the department?
13 years.
13 years. Now, according to what my father told me in serving with you, you helped fight the Downey House fire, is that right?
Yeah, that was the beginning of, well, maybe not the beginning of my experience. I'd been out before, but there was no organization. Just everybody went out and done what you could do. Or
everybody just jumped in and did what they thought they ought to do.
Yeah. There was no leadership whatsoever.
At that time, what equipment was it for firefighting in town?
No pumpers at all. Just an old truck that they hauled the hose in. That was all it was.
All of it. The borough had purchased this equipment, or it was owned by the borough?
It was owned by the borough, and they used it to wash the streets with. That's the biggest thing that they used it for, other than fight the fire. They'd push it out of the garage, which was back at the courthouse, to get it started about every time that they wanted it to run.
What kind of a truck was it, do you remember?
Well, I'm not too sure of the name.
Well, it's immaterial, actually. It was not a fire truck, though.
Oh,
It didn't
no.
have any pump on it. Or...
No, it was just a truck that had a bed on it. We might call it a ton-and-a-half truck, and it had just a bed.
And at that point, there was no one designated as a fire chief or as a fire department or anything in the borough.
Chief of police, which at that time was Jake Davis, I think.
And of course, everyone in Waynesburg and the local area talks about the Downey House fire of December the 23rd, 1925, I believe it was. And I understand you helped fight this fire.
Yeah.
The fire started at 3:30 or such in the morning.
That's right.
And reputedly in the Coney Island restaurant.
Yeah.
If that fire started today, would it have been a major conflagration as it was in those days? Or
No, I wouldn't say that it would have been, because at that time nobody was schooled in firefighting, and everybody tried to help, and no leadership. And in other words, it was just a case of grab good.
Okay.
Done what you could.
There were roughly 10 fire departments in to help and assist at the fire. I thought I had a list of them here among my notes. Maybe I don't. I remember Jefferson, Carmichael's. I can't remember what all else. Brownsville, I believe, was here.
And California's truck was up here.
And one coal company I noticed listed as being here. Was the coal company themselves have a fire department, or what?
No, not that I knew of.
Well, all right, we'll pass it. Well, this means that Jefferson and Carmichael's were this far ahead of Waynesburg. They was
organized before we were. Yeah.
Well, had their organization come through a major fire in their community, or just
just
thinking a little further ahead?
In other words, they were just that much ahead of us. We couldn't have, according to the residents, we couldn't have the bad fire in Waynesburg. But it's common.
Well, now the fire started at 3:30 in the morning, roughly, according to the newspapers I've found. It was fought through the Downey House and the adjoining building to hit Grossman burned that night. Grossman building and the cupola and a portion of the courthouse burned, and the Presbyterian Church, setting roughly where the Democrat Messenger building is today, burned.
That's right.
Now, in all the stories I'd heard, I'd never heard about the church burning. Did these all start from embers coming off the Downey House fire, or
Yeah.
it just spread that direction?
In other words, the wind was blowing from the west to the east. And all that caught a fire on the east side of Washington Street. Was caused by flying embers from the Downey House.
I have since heard that Kidder Owens told me that he was down here on top of my grandfather's mill here on Greene Street, picking off burning boards. Did the embers carry that far, really?
That's right. They went into East Waynesburg, and there was papers and things of that nature, shingles and stuff like that went as far as East Waynesburg.
How many men would you estimate were involved in fighting the fire?
I wouldn't have any idea. I would say roughly that it was probably 100 anyhow. Help carry out, in other words, at that time they started carrying out the furniture and goods and stuff like that out of the stores after it got so bad that they seen it wasn't going to be able to handle it.
To save the building.
Yeah.
Now, you were injured in the fire, in the collapse of the wall of the Grossman building, as I understand it. Is that right?
Yeah. The wall between the Grossman building and the hotel.
And there were 4 men killed and 5 injured. Now, I know Luther Renner was severely injured. His spine and back was injured. And being a member of the fire department, I know he's been carried for years as a member of the fire department along with yourself. Out of that, what about the other 3 men that were injured? Do you remember their names? Or?
Yeah, it was Wilbur, Allie Wilbur's boy. They always call him Pope, so I can't tell you what his first name is.
Pope will identifying to people then.
Yeah.
Did he come back into firefighting at all?
No. And the other one was Odell Cooper. The three of them were Renner and Wilbur and Cooper and myself. There were 4 that survived it.
And you were on the roof of the adjoining building when the wall came in.
Yeah.
What, with a hose line? Or?
Yeah. We had 2 hose lines up there on the roof. We're attempting to keep it confined to the hotel, through the windows, or the opening between the roof and where the windows had been in the hotel.
I see. The fire itself, though, by today's standards, wouldn't have been that big a fire, given modern firefighting techniques.
No.
I know I was often told by my father that, in spite of the publicity and how locally famous the Downey House fire was, that in actuality, we've had much better chances of burning the town since then, such as the gasoline truck on West Waynesburg Hill and other fires that have occurred since then. But due to having a modern fire department, we've averted it. You went into the fire department, you say, in what year again?
32.
32. How many years did you serve before you became chief? Do you remember?
I became chief in 47.
What office did you first have?
Well, I served as lieutenant and captain before I never served as assistant chief.
Just the office.
Yeah. In other words, there weren't any regulations on what you had to do before you could become a chief.
So, in all these years of firefighting, do you have any idea how many fires you fought? Rough figure?
Well, since 19 and I resigned in 1960, and Lieutenant was chief from that on, and I was active. I was active until about 65, and at that time we was having between 60 and 75 fires a year. And up until I started to taper off, I would answer about 80% of it.
Oh, that's quite a number of fires.
Yeah.
What equipment did the company have when you joined? Do you remember?
They had purchased the truck that we have now, the American LaFrance, was the only piece of equipment we had.
The 26 LaFrance.
Yeah.
That's the one the borough had bought shortly after the Downey House fire.
That's right. That was when things got hot. They purchased the American LaFrance.
It was a new truck was purchased. They have it here in January the 21st of 1926 for a price of $12,500, and it's a 750 gallon a minute pumper, correct?
Yeah.
And they had this truck when you came in. What was the next equipment purchase? Do you remember?
I think they had one made up. They bought a Dodge truck and had equipment put on it, I think was the next one.
Now, at this point, I realized that the 26 LaFrance was purchased by the borough and turned over to the company for their operation. Was the later trucks bought by the company or bought by the borough?
Bought by the company.
And how'd you raise money to buy the truck?
Well, we held corn. That was the big item in them days. All fire companies had a carnival sometime during the year, and they'd scrape up maybe $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and that was about the extent of it.
Yeah, I know at the present time we have a fire tax here in the borough,
Yeah.
and money from Franklin Township and other townships. When did the tax support of the department come?
To name the year, I couldn't tell you exactly, but it was, I would say, in the 50s.
And until that...
No, not 50s, before that. Wait. Now, wait. If I'm not mistaken, it was while I was chief that we finally got the first tax.
But until then, it was completely a donation operation.
That's right. If we could talk the council, the borough out of money to buy a hose with, all well and good. But, if we couldn't, why, we just had to make out on our own.
Now, when you joined the department, where was the firehouse located?
In the behind the borough building now.
In the borough, in a borough-owned building.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And now we have a modern firehouse here on Greene Street.
Yeah.
So you've seen quite a change in the department since you came.
Yes, indeed.
And I presume a like change in the firefighting.
Yeah, that's a big change in the method of fighting the fire.
Well, I don't know just how to approach the subject, Clovis. My dad always told me that one of the reasons, when I was a child, it seemed to me Clovis Wright as the head fire chief when time began would be fire chief, I presume, until time ended. And one day I asked Dad why Clovis Wright was the fire chief, and my father said because Clovis had been there, and so long as he was chief, we'd never kill a man in the fire department. I understand your record was quite good for no injuries in the department.
We didn't have any injuries other than the cut finger or sprained ankle or something like that. We never had any serious injuries.
No one ever hospitalized?
No, we never had other than going and checking an arm or something, an x-ray or something to see if they had a broken arm or a sprained ankle, something like that. That was as far as any medical assistance was concerned.
Now, going back to this period, too, the fire department for years here in town has functioned not only as a fire department, but many other functions. Also, I can remember going to hunt for lost children and called out, I believe, once when a man was shot up in the upper end of the county, a hunting accident of some type. And just what all functions did the fire department serve?
We were called out to do everything. Wasn't nothing that they wouldn't call us for, even getting a cat out of a tree or the cow fell through the bridge or anything else that come along. They called the fire company. And anybody was lost, they always called the fire company. And volunteer organization, and everybody was willing to do their part. When we got a call like that, we went.
Generally got the job done.
We got the job done.
Do you have any humorous incidents of firefighting or such calls that you'd like to put in this?
I could tell one in relation to a fire we answered one night or one morning, about 2 o'clock, that your father was the clown in that one, and if you want to hear that one, I'd be glad to repeat
Go
that.
Go right ahead. I'm sure he wouldn't mind.
We were called that they had a fire right this side of Rogersville. So we took off. When we got up there, in them days, they had a lot of outside toilets. You know what an outside toilet is.
Oh, yeah.
And in the early days, they always put a new moon up over the door. And Ed Van Cleve said, well, boys, he said, we've got a toilet on fire. Somebody said, how do you know, Ed? He said, I see the new moon over the door. And that's exactly what it was. It was an outside toilet on fire. About 2:30 in the morning. And that I always remembered that, for Ed said that was how he could tell. The door, and it had a new moon cut out right over the door.
I can almost put his son in the same position. The first fire that I went to after I joined the department was an outhouse at the fairgrounds. And I went charging through the door of it with a booster hose, and the fire was down in one of the holes, and I was standing there with the nozzle closed thinking, well, if that fellow in the truck's got 150 pounds pressure up, when I open this nozzle, I'm going to take a bath. One of the fellows was telling me the other night about the fire behind the Blair and Hampson store. Were you there down in behind? And I understand the woman of the house decided that the thing she wanted to save was her dishes, and she grabbed up an armload of them and threw them out the second-story window of the building or something.
Yeah, I think that was right. She didn't carry them out, she threw them out. And of course, that was the same as leaving them in there. But getting back on them toilet business, we had a pretty good fire on the south side down around Cage's Row, and it burned up some houses and an outside toilet. And one of the fellows stomping through there in the dark, and down he went right down the hole after it fell down. So we've had our fun along with a lot of hard work.
Well, there's no question but what it's hard work. You were chief when this firehouse was built?
Yeah.
It was, I understand there was quite an argument about whether we could afford it or not, or...
Well, that always happened every time we talked firehouse fire. We couldn't afford it. And we finally decided to build it. And our good friend Fox over in East Waynesburg. What's his name?
Fred Fox.
No.
Oh, Junior.
Junior Fox. He was the one that fought so hard to get this store he put on. We were going to just have one story. And he said, now's the time to build it. And Fred Fox, being the big boss over it, he thought it was all right too, so we decided to go all the way and put this room that we're in now on it. And Jr. was one of the big pushers of that. He was one of the big pushers in building the firehouse. And I'm very glad that we got it on here when we did. The longer we waited, the more it was going to cost.
Yes. You didn't have air packs back in the start, but yet you say you've never had a man hospitalized. What do you contribute to? Just careful firefighting, or what?
Yeah. In other words, you stayed with it as long as you could, and then you come out. This recent fire we had up here, one of the fellows who was working on it, I was down that night and standing there beside them, and they were using air packs. They would go in with an air pack and run them dry and come back out. He said to me, he said, I don't know how you fellows ever fought fires without a mask, he said, and we can't take it with one on. And I said, well, you just learned to do it. You take what you could and then you come back out. So there was a man with an air pack on and go in, and he couldn't do anything with it after he went in there. But up till, I bought some masks, no self-contained masks. We had other masks, canister type, when I was chief, and we bought more of them while I was on. In other words, that was the start of buying masks and using them. But in the case of using a gas mask of any kind or air mask, it just knocks about 50% of your efficiency off. You just got to slow down 50% to be able to do anything. You can't just barge into it and work like you would if you was out in the open. You just can't take it that way. So I think that's the biggest thing in the mask, where they have trouble with masks. They try to do too much with the mask on, which you just can't do it. You get to breathing too fast, and then you're out of wind.
Do you classify the firefighter of today as good a firefighter as 20, 30 years ago? Or?
Yes, I would say they're a lot better. They're better educated. In other words, your fire schools now, most of them go to fire school and they're trained, even volunteers take training. In them days, it wasn't, you just got what you had from experience of fighting fire. You learned as you went. But now it's training, and that is very good. But on the other hand, in my years of experience as a chief, you never have two fires alike. You never know what to expect when you go out. They tell you the house is on fire, or the barn's on fire, or the factory's on fire. You can't make any plans until you get there and see what the situation is and the size of that.
What would you say would be the overruling attributes that a department has to hunt in its chief? Just the ability to think on his feet?
In other words, he has to be a leader, and he has to be a man that can tell the fellow what he wants done and stay with it. In this game of firefighting, the chief is the man in charge, and he's responsible. And the men shouldn't question his judgment. After he gets there and takes over, what he tells them to do, they do, and then it's up to him. If he made the mistake, you can't blame them. But if they won't do what he wants them to do, you don't have any fire company. You have to have a man that will take charge and do what he thinks is best. If you have a bunch of men that try to tell the chief what's going on out of the fire, other than if he comes up and tells you the fire's breaking out in the back or the front or something like that, or we need a string of hose on the backside, that part of it's all right. But if you question the chief judgment in a fire, you're going to ruin the fire. Because it only takes one man to operate while you're out there. The other fellow's supposed to do the work that he tells them to do.
Well, now, you've spent the biggest part of 40 years watching the fire department grow here in town and get to where it is now. Do you feel that it's been a success through its years? Has it done its job?
It's improved every year. In other words, they have gotten better as they went along, and they have better equipment, or they have equipment here to work with that we didn't have. And you get back to the equipment is no better than the men that operate it. If they can't operate the equipment, then the equipment isn't any good. We have all kinds of new gadgets to fight fire with that we didn't have back in the 50s. It was a case of just what we could scratch up enough money to buy.
I remember from my father, once again, back when the fire tax went through, I had the impression it was in the late 40s. He was pro it and he was anti it. He was pro it because he knew that the department needed the money to buy equipment, and he was anti it because he feared that the borough government and the local government would come in and tell us how to run the fire department. Have we been successful in keeping the borough government out of the firefighting business as far as operation goes?
The borough, ever since I've been in the fire company, has never tried to take over any of the duties of the firemen or take over the fire company or tell us how to operate. In other words, they have stayed clear of it as far as coming to the firehouse and trying to tell us what they want done or this, that, or the other. And I think that is very good, because if they tried to operate it and the fire company tried to operate it, then you might be in trouble.
Was this their attitude from the start, or
that's right?
There was no argument about it.
No argument about it. In other words, they bought the truck and they give us the truck, and that was it. They help maintain it. If we need some repairs on it, they help pay for it, and it was ours to use, and however we wanted to use it. Another thing about them, we went to carnivals. When we had carnivals, we had to go to the other firemen's carnival, or they wouldn't come to us for parade. So that was a big night when the firemen's parade at the carnival. And we could take the truck and go to Jefferson or Carmichael or wherever we wanted to go to a parade. They come to our carnival and attended our parade. That was the big drawing card of the carnival, was the parade night.
I know the carnival still exists, and we still go in spite of not having any of our own anymore.
That's right. That's right.
This brings up the subject of mutual aid. How long has the county been had a mutual aid program in operation since the start? Has it been a success all the time, or most of the time, or what?
You mean the county?
Yes, here in the county, the cooperation between county fire departments.
Oh, yeah, they've always got along very well. Now, there's always we call it a rivalry or this, that, or the other, but whenever the time comes that you need them all in the same place, that's all forgotten. If you call for them, they come and help you. You call them, or yes, they call you, you go and help them. And you drive in and ask the chief what he wants done, and he tells you, and you go ahead and do it. That's very good cooperation all over the county.
Now, so far as I know, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, there are no paid departments in Greene County.
No.
Of any kind.
No.
Do you feel that the county could have had better fire protection, or do you feel that it would have been not as well gone the other direction as so many other sections of the country do without the volunteers.
No. They couldn't have had the manpower, the first thing. They couldn't afford the manpower because they couldn't afford to pay enough men to keep them going. And if you pay part of a company, a volunteer company, and you have some paid men and some you don't, it don't work out very good. And the volunteer, just a straight volunteer, I think is the best way to handle it.
We don't lack anything by not having paid departments in your field.
No.
I know the response time has always been extremely good down through the years, and having been raised a fire company grad, I've known it for several years. How many second and third generation firemen do we have around the county? A lot that have stayed in it.
Yeah, we have. I don't know about the third. We probably have had some third generation, but we have 2 generations in. Quite a few of them right now, father and son.
Well, I can think was not Bob Fox's father was a fireman, and now Bob's boys are in, so they're third generation.
There's 3 generations right there
in our own department here.
Yeah.
It seems to be a family thing. You don't get away from it once you're in it. I noticed when the council, in my research, I noticed when the council set the fire department up or suggested it back in 1926 as an aftermath of the Downey House Fire, that they formed a department of 25 men to be increased to 100 men. Now, our charter, as I understand it, limits us to 60 men on the roll, 40 active and 20 in reserve. Do you have any idea how that came about? Was that just a number that was lowered along the way, or what?
In the start, before we got our bylaws, they set that number to 100. In other words, they didn't know what was going to happen as far as volunteers was concerned, how many they were going to get. So they set a number of 100. And at one time we had pretty well up to that. But there were too many of them that were inactive. In other words, their name was on the roll, but they lived out here and out there and couldn't get in. So they dropped them down to 25, and then they went to 40. And then they got new bylaws, and we got this active and reserve. For the reserve to keep somebody up there, that if somebody dropped out, you would still have a 40-man company all the time. But when it first started, everybody signed up for the charter, and of course they dropped out one at a time, and finally they're all out now.
I happen to have the list here of the original organization as of April the 21st, 1926. And I don't recognize any of these names. Perhaps you could fill me in on the chemical truck. They had a captain who was Captain Hiram Howard and a Lieutenant Harold Hiller. Do you recognize either of the names?
Yes, sir. Howard, he came in here about the time, I think, that it was organized, or was here at that time, and they run a ice cream factory. He did down here where Bishop Dairy is. That was his job in here, and I think he married a girl in here. And Hiller was a native of Greene County, and he was lived in Morrisville in his later years.
Did they stay in the department?
Quite a long while.
Quite a long while, all right.
Well, Howard left that. He was transferred out. He left from here.
Okay, going on here, we have a hose truck captain, Charles Wallace, and a Lieutenant Morris Manning. Do these names connect with you? Or?
Morris Manning and Mose Manning lived right across the street where this little house on the corner of the alley. That's where his mother lived. He was a brother. He had a brother Earl. Yeah, he was a member. He was carpenter. Yeah, I knew Mose Manning for many years.
Okay, going on down, we have a hook and ladder captain, Jake K. Milligan, and of course Lieutenant Glenn Brewer.
J.K. Milligan worked for the West Bend Fire Company, was electrician. And Glenn Brewer operated Crosby and Brewer Garage. And he's still around here. We see him here quite often, Glenn Brewer.
And traffic captain in those days was James Stevenson and a Lieutenant G.T. Zimmerman. G.T. Zimmerman.
Not too familiar with
Don't place those.
Zimmerman, but Jim Stevens was an auctioneer and lived in this big brick house down here on Sunrise Park. That's where Jim lived, and he was an auctioneer. That's the reason why he could tell him off when he got into a traffic jam.
Oh, I see.
But now we had Zimmerman, we had, we had a fellow here that belonged to the state police for a while. We called him Zip Zimmerman. And we had a George Zimmerman here. But now whether that is the George that I'm thinking about was a member of the fire company at that time, I don't know.
Okay, and another name that came up in my research was Dorsey Patterson. Dorsey Patterson, one or the other.
Dorse.
D-O-R-S-E.
Dorse. That was his name, Dorse. He was associated with Charlie Wyckoff and one other fellow that I don't recall his name right now. But they were in the garage business. He was a painter, automobile painter, and body man. Yeah, he was one of the drivers.
Well, his name came up, according to the newspaper, the year after the Downey House fire. The fire department presented Renner, the man injured, his back injury, with a gold watch, and the presentation was made by Dorsey Patterson. That's where I picked the name up.
Yeah, well, I think that he was maybe an officer, or I know he was a driver, but he might have been an officer. That presentation might have been, he may have been president of the company at the time. Could have been.
That was something else that came up in the reading. I noticed when the council organized the department, they made the chief the president of the company and the senior officer of the company, all in one man. And down through the years, we've separated the administration of the company and the firefighting to two separate jobs, so that we now have a chief and a president. Did this occur after you were in, or was this in this situation when you came in the department?
No, we had a chief and we had a president of the company
when you came in.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Luther Renner never came back and fought fire.
No, he never was active.
He'd had all the firefighting he wanted that first night.
Yeah.
Just to get into something, it was Buckeye Coal that was listed. I thought as one of the companies that came to the fire that night. It must have been a company.
That may have been Nemacolin. In other words, Nemacolin is the Buckeye Coal Company. And that's probably where they got that name of the coal company. But the name of the town now is...
I believe that I just today read in the Old Democrat where Nemacolin Fire Department had taken delivery of their truck. This fire was on a Thursday, was it not? I believe. And they had taken delivery of their fire truck on Tuesday and didn't have any hose for it. Upon hearing about the fire, they went to the coal company and got hose and came up. So that might be where it came from.
Yeah, that
I wanted to ask, this maybe doesn't belong in this tape, but I wanted to ask you, there was an S.P. Hooper tobacco concern in the building. And in later reports, it said that they were doing business from their tobacco factory on South Morris Street. Do you remember the Hooper Tobacco Company?
Yeah, they made cigars.
They wrapped them here in Waynesburg?
Yeah.
I never knew we had a cigar factory.
Well, you know, coming up Morris Street, we'll start down at that tire shop.
Yeah.
And we come up to the first street, which is Lincoln.
Right.
And then you come up to the alley.
All right.
And Hooper's Cigar Factory was on the corner of the alley, on the southeast corner of the alley.
Where the Southward School is.
Below the Southward School. That alley below the Southward School, on the same side of the street.
I'll be darned. Well, I never knew we had a tobacco factory.
Yeah, I pass that thing every day when you come up Morris Street. I roomed on 328 South Morris Street, and Hooper's Cigar Store. Not cigar store, but they rolled the cigars there, and they had a cigar store in the Fort Jackson Hotel when it burnt down.
Well, I read it there, and it said they were doing business from their factory, and I'd never heard of their factory. The Ross Drug Store was damaged later as they were tearing the building down.
Yeah, I think the wall fell on.
So that was another, according to this, another $50,000 loss that occurred after the fire was all over.
Yeah.
There was no one hurt by luck. And I see the county commissioners paid $100 each to the 10 companies that helped us. And they mailed off checks, kind of a surprising thing to come out of the county commissioners.
I never knew that before.
Yeah,
Never heard that before.
It was reported in the Observer, or in the Democrat, or the Waynesburg Republican, a few months later. And another strange one that I ran into was the bell at the courthouse. Did it fall that night, do you know, or did the heat just ruin the bell, or what? I saw way late in the year where they were sending the bell off to be recast.
No, I don't think the bell. I never heard of it.
Well, the paper report said it's been sitting on the portico of the courthouse since the fire. They'd taken it down, and it was being recast because of the high amount of silver in it. And I was wondering if that's the same bell that we have now.
Probably is.
Probably is.
I would say that it would be the same bell. Now, the bell may have been taken down due to the fact that the cupola was so badly burned that they felt that it wasn't safe for it to set in there.
Well, in addition, it said the bell was cracked from the heat.
Yeah.
So it must have just been the heat. Then somebody later told me it fell, but I wonder, I've had different people tell me it didn't. Now, Bob Thomas is a longtime member of the fire department. He fought fire later in the church. I presume by then the accident occurred somewhere around 7 in the morning. And the church fire, it appears, didn't occur until 8, so you missed it, right?
Yeah, there wasn't no fire on this side. Well, I think the cupola was on fire, if I remember right. I'm not too sure of that. But I would think, or I do think that, well, I won't say sure. I don't know what time it was. But anyhow, when they got us out of there and took us to the hospital, which was where the dormitory is now, back in the college. That's where the hospital was. But didn't seem to me that we'd been up there maybe a couple hours, something like that, before we went down.
Oh, you went back to the fire?
No, I said before we went down. Yeah.
Well, that would 3:30 probably started fighting fire about 4, so that'd make it somewhere around 6.
Yeah.
According to the newspaper report, it said approximately 7, so I don't really know. But I had never known that there was a church over on Church Street there until I got to investigating this, and Bob started telling me about fighting fire over there. He said he wasn't in on the Downey House fire at all, but it ended up over there spraying water down into the church. Are there any other people that you could suggest that we go to for any further impressions of that night?
Well, I would have to think about that. Now, this fellow might give you some pointers, and he has told me many a time that he drugged me out of the 5 and 10 cent store. And that is he worked over at the bakery. Jim, his first name. Cree, not Jim. That big Cree boy.
Cree, I don't place who you're speaking of, but I can find out, I'm sure. And he said he pulled you out of it.
Yeah. You know, he may have some information there. You can talk to him and find out just what he had.
You, I presume, are quite proud of your years of firefighting here. The years, occasions that you stand out.
Yes, the gasoline truck fire was a headache. Frank, the chief, had a broken arm, and I was helping him out. But that was one thing that we had more good luck than anything else, that didn't blow up. The fact that the overflow on it was leaking when it caught fire, and that's the only thing that I can say that may have kept it from exploding, because the vents were letting the air out with the gas, and there's where it caught. They had on top of that tank was a little trough like where the openings were on top, and the gas had gotten out in that, was what I thought about it. There were a lot of fire coming out on the back tank next to the rear end. And as you look at the picture of it, you can see that there. But getting back to that, I understood that one of the doctors in Waynesburg was over at the hospital at the time, and they told him what was going on, and he cleaned the hospital of all the patients that were able to go home or could go home for a bedroom, just in case we had an explosion. So they felt that there was a good chance of something blowing up.
When you fought that one with water,
yeah,
and water only, no chemicals,
that's right.
Which is not exactly the accepted practice of firefighting today.
No, but that's all we had.
You lost what? Jacob's house, the next house below it.
Yeah, that was the Knox house.
The Knox house.
Yeah.
And then on the north side of the street, there was another house where the Acme sits now.
Yeah, that one was pretty well burned. But it wasn't a total, but it was on fire.
So at that one, you had gasoline trucks supplying fire and 3 houses burning beside.
That's right.
How many departments were in on the fire?
Oh, I think we had about 3 or 4.
So it certainly had the capability of being another Downey House.
That's right. If that tank, or one of those tanks, would have exploded, there would have been a number of people killed up there, because the state police were in there and they couldn't get people to realize that there was danger of that blowing up. They tried to get them to move back, and they were in as close as we were. And if it had let loose, people had been sprayed with gasoline and burned up.
And this was what year? Do you remember?
It was 45.
45. I remember the fire as a child, but I couldn't have said what year it was.
It was 45.
If I remember right, a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
And in those days, everyone was in town on Saturday, so you must have had quite a crowd.
Yeah. And they all come right up in front. In other words, that fire, we tried to control the two houses that was on fire that got away from us, and the one across the street, and we forgot about the gasoline truck. We made no attempt to put the fire out on the gas truck. And after we got the fire down on those houses, then we used the cross streams, if you want to call it that, to kill that fire on top. And that's the way we got it out. It was 1,500 gallons of gasoline. They took it down to Levine's junkyard and pumped 1,500 gallons of gasoline out of it. After
it was still remaining unburned in the truck.
That's right.
Goodness, you had quite a capability of an explosive there.
Yeah.
Where do you think the fire department ought to go from here?
Well, I have my ideas, but I don't think I'll put it on paper.
Well, that's purely up to you. That's your right, Clovis.
I could tell you, but maybe I wouldn't want somebody to read what I would tell you.
You think you would say then offhand that your best memory of the fire department was the job they did today at the gas lamp fire?
Yeah. That was wonderful.
The best save.
The best save. We had 3 of them that I answered the call on. 3 gasoline trucks. We had one at the foot of Bailey Hill on Route 19 South on fire. And we had one on Route 19 North near the Dividing Ridge Hill. And we got both them out, or well, one of them out, the other burned itself out. But one of the comic things, and the assistant chief made the comment, we were called out on 19 South beyond Kirby of a chemical truck that was on fire. And they were repairing 19 out there, and they had these little smudge spots sitting along the road. And this chemical truck developed a leak. And it was spraying out, a very fine stream, just spraying out on the left-hand side of the truck. And as he drove along, this little pot ignited that chemical. Well, he saw it in the mirror, and he stopped, called the fire company, and it was spraying out about 4 or 5 feet, and it was just burning out there. And we went out there. I wasn't an officer at the time, and Herman Hurst was along with me. We were trying anything we could get to put it out. We tried some powder, we tried some water, and it wasn't doing any good. It still burned. There wasn't enough fire that you could get right up to it, you know. And Herman was one side, and I was on the other side. And I said, well, we'll try something. I had on a canvas glove, and I just walked up to the side of the truck and sat my hand down over the stream where it came out of the truck, and the fire went out. And that's all there was of it.
Red Adair solution. Shut off the source and you're rid of the fire, huh?
So you see them things happen. Very simple thing, sometimes you do that stops it all.
But all in all, you feel the company's done well.
Very well. In other words, I feel this way about the fire company. They have a very good fire company. And I have felt for many, many years that the public doesn't appreciate and take it for granted what we have sitting down here to protect them. Now, maybe I'm wrong in saying they don't appreciate, but it'll go for a long time before they come out and say that, see? Now, some people come to you and tell you that you're doing a good job and you don't get the appreciation for what you should have. But it would be a dark night in Waynesburg if you didn't have the volunteer fire company, I'll tell you that.
And now you're still active, I know, on ambulance calls. We were not in the ambulance business when you retired, or were we?
No. No.
I don't know how to term your existence right now, Clovis. You haven't retired.
No.
You haven't quit. You're still with us.
I hold my active membership, and I am what they call an honorary life member, which according to some, I don't know what I want to say, but that is something that you can't get rid of. In other words, it was given to me.
I know of no one that wants to.
Well, that may be too. Thank you for that. But a life membership, honorary life membership, and I have the privilege of being here, anything that's going on, or take part in anything.
To bring out some of our dirty laundry, I don't know if we should or not, but for years the fight went on here in the department over borough residents and non-borough residents and Franklin Township residents. I remember years ago there were two factions. One faction said we should allow Franklin Township people in. Another faction said we shouldn't. Where did all this fight start? How did it come about?
I think the discussion all came up after Franklin Township voted a tax to give to the Waynesburg Volunteer Fire Company. Then they voted to give us a meal, but they had no representation. See?
Yeah.
They just give the money up here to us with a contract that we would supply fire protection in Franklin Township for 1 mil tax. But then the thing began to get a little bit hot on. They thought maybe that Franklin Township should have somebody belong to the fire company or have a representation of some sort. So that's when the thing started. But do you know what the status of it is right now?
Yes. Franklin Township, people who live in Franklin Township, who work in the borough, are eligible for membership right now.
Do we have anybody from Franklin Township?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
I can't quote you name and people, but we do have now.
Well,
in fact, as it came out in the vote on the floor, it came out that anyone that lives in a contracted township, I believe, who works in a borough is eligible for membership, thereby giving us more daytime firemen, because we've gotten a problem with people who live in the borough but work outside the borough not being available in the daytime. Do you have any feelings about the ambulance service, as to whether we should be in it or shouldn't be in it?
We should be in it. We are in it, and we should be in it. We should be more interested in it than we are. I feel that the ambulance service is the biggest moneymaker. Is a big moneymaker as far as the company is concerned. And I think the membership of the company should be a little bit more active in answering the call when they call them to help. be a kind of a hesitancy on the part of a lot of members to answer the call, which I think is a part just the same as answering the fire alarm. If hour that you can spare and can make a run, why, you should be willing to do it.
Well, you feel then it's a logical extension of our community service?
Absolutely.
Service.
You take Bob Thomas and Kidder and Church before he quit, and myself were just more or less carrying the load there for a while in the daytime.
I don't know how we're going to solve it. I have some suggestions that I've put to the chief. Maybe they'll work or maybe they won't. But you do feel that it is a continuation of the service.
That's right.
Should extend to the community.
That's right. And it's paying well.
Oh, yes. There's no question.
It's paying well, and we should take care of it. I feel sometimes a little bit gripey about it, but the last trip we had that I made, we were out on a little run, and we come back, and they said they had a patient to go to Allegheny General. Want to know if I would go, and I said, I'll go, but I don't want to. I said, I'm 75 years old, and I said, going into Pittsburgh at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Parkway West. I said, now that's enough to try anybody in driving, and I said, I just don't...
That'll try an 18-year-old patient.
Yeah.
I'll guarantee you.
But I said, if you can't get anybody to go, I'll go. And he didn't get anybody to go, so I went. But I'm not griping about that, but I feel that 75 years, we'll say that I'd rather go out to the county home or go over to Morgantown rather than to try to drive in Pittsburgh. You know, I'm not as young as you used to be able to say it that way.
Well, there are a lot of us that are getting that shape already. Do you have anything further on the history or any background of the department you'd like to add on here so that it won't be lost? I'm sure that you're privy to much information and many tales that there aren't many left that are privy to. For instance, let me bring one up. How about Boxhead Bradford? Where did he get his nickname?
I never knew. I don't know where that started any more than I know where Butterfingers got started with me. But it's been Boxhead off and on, and he was a good egg. That bird was. He was a good farmer.
I think back to when I was a child, and it seems to me like the town was blessed with a lot of good firemen. And guys that were serious about it. Our department's probably the only one in the area with the strange quirk of no alcoholic beverages on the property, no gambling on the property. When you see other fire departments, it appears that this department was founded and has been run as a no-nonsense fire department. Did this come about due to its origin, or just how?
I think the leaders, the chief along the line, back, well, we had Woody and Frank Hoop. And I could recite the stories of things that has happened at a fire that was just no good. You know, in a cold night, you go out there and fellas standing around on the street. He's got a quart or he's got a fifth. And they give the fireman a drink, and the first thing you know, they don't know whether the fire's in the top floor or the bottom floor. And the chief took it upon themselves that there wouldn't be no drinking on the job, and there wouldn't be no drinking after they come back to the firehouse. If they wanted to drink after a night out, they could go to the bar or get their whiskey and drink as much as they wanted after that's the firehouse. But I'll go along with you that I think that this company without liquor or a bar in the firehouse has saved a lot of hard feelings and fights and everything else that they have in other fire companies.
I don't question that at all. I think it's probably one of the most logical things. I don't know how it happened after seeing other fire departments and talking to other volunteer firemen, and they say, "What? You don't have a bar in your, no beer keg in your place?" And they appear shocked, but I've always felt kind of proud about it myself.
Well, I have too. And when I took over, I told them that we would just go according to what they had before, that we didn't drink it while we were on the job, and we didn't drink it when we come back to the firehouse. But after they left here, they could do whatever they pleased. But my argument always was that you can't handle liquor and a fire hose at the same time. One of them's going to get you down.
Well, so far as I can remember or ever have heard, there really hasn't been any fight in the department about it.
No.
When people come in, they're told this is a non-alcoholic department, and there's never been much argument about it.
That's right. In other words, maybe some of them think that we should have it, but they keep their mouth shut. It's never was a topic in a meeting.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's never been brought up in a meeting, but you don't have to go many miles away to find alcoholic fire departments.
That's right.
That have bars and open bars and such. And you say it was just due to the men that started the thing being serious when they started.
That's right. They felt that the beverage wasn't a part of firefighting. When they got there, they should think about getting the fire out and forget about the liquor.
Well, we just recently had our 50th anniversary. Do you think that she'll grow and continue to be here for the 100th?
Yeah. Yes, she will. Somebody will carry on.
Sometimes you wonder, but I guess they will.
Yeah.
It seems like it's an organization that sometimes operates in spite of itself rather than with itself.
That's right.
And as long as it's operating in spite of itself, I guess we don't have to worry about it too much.
I feel that the fire company is like a lot of other things. That there is a change in personnel and how we done things 25, 50 years ago, and the same as they do out on the job today. In other words, they used to go out, pick up the shovel, and they used it. But now, if you can lean on the shovel and get away with it, why, that's all right. That's pretty good. But you can't. You've got to work at this job if you expect to keep things rolling.
Well, if that's the extent of it, we'll stop it here. And I thank you very much for allowing me to make the tape.
I appreciate you calling me, and I'm glad to